Everyone, and welcome to the Remarkable You podcast, sharing stories of strength and bringing communities together. I am joined today by the remarkable Tanya Hoffmann, who is the co-founder of VeloYouth nonprofit, helping kids in the San Diego area build pride and accomplishment using bicycles as a tool. Welcome, remarkable Tanya.
Thank you, Danielle. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Now, I'm sure I have everyone's mind spinning, no pun intended, but how is it that you are using bicycles, as a tool to build that sense of pride and accomplishment?
So, great question because it isn't always intuitive. I come from a background of learning and development, mostly in the workplace, but what I've found over many years in learning and development is that the lessons that stick the greatest are those that hit either in our heart or in our gut. And essentially, that becomes experiential learning. And the bicycle is, I am not a cyclist actually, but I am a cycling advocate because of the fabulous coherence between life lessons and cycling. So just as, a couple of easy examples, you can't ride a bike without putting a little bit of pressure, a little bit of effort, a little bit of work in, pushing on those
Mm.
pedals and steering your bike. And it is an amazing thing to watch somebody ride a bike because wherever it is that their attention and their eyesight goes, that's where their bike goes. So much the same as when we set goals for ourselves. When we keep our attention focused on the goal and we keep our intention focused on the goal, so much easier to achieve than when we are distracted in 20 different directions. And so there's so many life lessons that translate like that so well through cycling. It is a great communication tool and a way to experience some of what we're talking about.
That's incredibly powerful. And I have to admit two things. So, one, when you said that you're not necessarily like a cycling expert, I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I over here, admittedly, and I can't believe I'm admitting this, I'm the type of person that rides downhill with the brakes on. And so I feel a sense of relief there. But also when you're talking about, the direction that you're looking in, where you're putting your mind, where you're putting your attention, that's where the bike goes. But then that's also where like your thoughts are going to bring you, life is going to bring you. What are some great examples of lessons that have come from that metaphor that you use there?
Well, I can point to lots of them in my life, but to work with the kids, when we're at Velo Youth, we use the acronym STARS: self-respect, teamwork, achievement, responsibility, and those add up to equal success. And at the start of each 6-week program, we ask the students to set a goal for themselves. And so it might have to do with raising their grades. It might have to do with healthy eating or getting more rest. Whatever is important to them, they set a goal at the start of that 6 weeks. And then those lessons, as we go through and talk about the different life lessons, and they get to experience those on the bike, that also helps them meet their goals. So, for example, teamwork. We talk about teamwork all the time. Such a different impact when we stop talking about it and put them on bikes where it actually matters and they have to communicate effectively with the people around them in order to be safe and in order to achieve that exercise, whatever it is that they're doing, on the bike. And so that translates then again over to their goal. Who is on their team for that goal? Have they talked with them and shared that goal? Who are the people that can support them? And so if it's bringing their grades up, have they had the conversation with the teacher? What assignments need to be turned in or are missing? So it's just we actually draw those lines directly through the program so they get to ride the bike and then put it in action in their life like immediately.
That's incredible because as you're explaining the stars, I'm picking up like communication, self-advocacy, being aware of intentionally like planning to support your goals and how is it that you're going to go about that. So that's quite incredible program that you have there. And I know anyone who's listening is probably automatically thinking, "Oh my goodness, Tanya is an absolute angel." But this isn't all that you do. This is not even close to being all that you do. Can you explain for everyone out here the other nonprofits that you are also part of?
So, in my personal life, I work with businesses and business leaders to create workplace learning and development. One of the things that I kept hearing from business was, wow, Gen Z is really struggling as we onboard them with communication, with critical thinking skills, with so many of the interpersonal problem solving skills, even. And so I started talking with other teachers. We started talking with the students that we work with at VeloYouth, and they actually said the same thing. They know Gen Z is amazing with technology. They're amazing in a lot of different ways, but even the kids will say that they are struggling with in-person conversations. They are so used to texting. COVID impacted a lot of them, so that social anxiety has become, more of an issue. Some of
Mm,
the students have felt very safe at home school situations, or homeschooling, but
mhm.
haven't had as many of the difficult communications experiences that they have to work through in the workplace. And so out of all of that feedback, it became very obvious that there was a gap there that we needed to close. And it's not just for students that participate in VeloYouth, it's a much broader topic. For VeloYouth, we're mostly working with students that are in some tougher situations, that are at risk, underserved. Um, but really, this is not a problem that has anything to do with socioeconomics. It really has to do with the time the time of where we are in history, and the technology that's available, and the impacts of COVID, which were not just, not local to California or the United States, but we're really worldwide. So this is a much bigger issue. And from that, I adapted a lot of the workplace modules and then added more of them for transition age youth. So that would be like ages 16 to 24, to start building their skill sets around those types of topics, and doing it in, again, an experiential manner, so that they are ag- catching it, at the gut and at the heart level, rather than just having a conversation, an intellectual conversation about, oh, yeah, these are the skills. I know I should use them. End of story, right? It has to
Absolutely.
make an
And
impact in order to stick.
100%. And when you talk about serving youth that are ages 16 to 24, the majority of that age range was in school during the pandemic. And thinking about just how many of them were only in elementary school during the pandemic. And that is where a lot of the social emotional learning happens: how to have a conversation, how to read facial cues, how to problem solve and navigate the ups and downs of, relationships, moments with your classmates, friendships, and talking about like how you were talking about before with the Velo Youth, like getting back into, the advocating for yourself to meet your goals and whatnot. Those are all incredibly important skills that were missed upon during the pandemic because they didn't have those socialization experiences. And I don't know how long California was out of school for, but in Massachusetts, I believe, if I remember correctly, it feels like so long ago, but I believe it was about a year and a half that we were out of school for. And even when we came back, it was only half of a classroom at a time. No one could be near each other. Everyone had face masks. So add on another year or so of missing out on those opportunities. Now we have a whole subset of young adults who are entering the workforce. And like you said, they're phenomenal with technology because that's all that they were exposed to for so long, right? They can do it better than any of us. But it's those interpersonal skills and those soft skills that you mentioned that are really a struggle. And we're seeing that as they get older and older. So what an incredible resource to bridge that gap. What is something, because I truly believe that anyone who serves the community, right? gets into it because you want to be involved in the community, you want to be part of the community. But quite often, I have found that it's almost that the community gives back to the person just as much as their nonprofit might, or an educator might set out to do. What is something that working within the community has taught you, or how it has shaped yourself?
So, Danielle, that's a big question. And I will always stand by that. I have learned so much from, my 20 years of giving back, so much more than any of the kids that we have touched. It has been such a deep education, life-changing experience for me to dive into, some of their world. Um, but also to learn about, philanthropy and giving back. That wasn't something that I necessarily grew up with. And so it was a whole new world that kind of opened up, for me. And I think a couple of the things that have been big light bulb moments for me. It was so hard when I first started to reach out to people for support, understanding that
Mm,
we couldn't do this all by myself. We couldn't do this as our small group and make it happen and make it sustainable. And so reaching out and asking for support was a big challenge. And what I've come to realize is that it really takes everybody, and everybody has a different role to play. So if you have time to offer, that's important. If you have skills to offer, that's important. If you have a financial contribution that you can make, that's important. It's all needed. And so, inviting people to join us has actually been something that has been beneficial for them also, to be part of a team and to be part of that giving back. So that has been a big aha moment for me. And then I think the other one, we work with a school that primarily serves homeless, unhoused youth. And one of the teachers, I sat down with her and was having a conversation today, or not today, but years ago. And she says, Tanya, she says, every problem that you ever have will be a problem of abundance. If you get a flat tire on your way to work, it's because you have a car and you have a job. It's a
mm.
problem of abundance. If you have a bad day at work, it's because you have a job. And so there it's a completely different, when I can look at the world from that perspective, which that has hugely shaped my life. It adds a whole different level of gratitude into how where I operate from. So that
100%.
was another game changer.
Now, so 100% for problem of abundance, and you're absolutely right that puts everything into perspective. But I want to talk for a moment about, because I felt, I'm not going to lie, again, I'm going to confess, but I felt myself literally start to sweat when you said that it was hard to ask for support. Because, I will fully admit I have a really hard time asking for people to help, right? No matter what it is that I'm working on. And I would rather take on too much or not do it than to dare take one step foot forward and ask someone for support. What would you say to someone who is wanting to be a part of their community, who is wanting to serve, but might be thinking, oh my goodness, I cannot ask, I don't dare ask, I can't ask for support, how am I going to do this? What is something that would help them take that leap of faith?
I would say flip that. If what happens if you don't invite people to offer what they have and give them a way to participate and offer them a way to give back? We
Oh.
have then just missed out on an opportunity. You've missed out on an opportunity and they've missed out on an opportunity. And so, and it takes, again, like, we are working through some really big social changes right now. And it is going to take everybody giving what they can and what they have. And so, if we don't invite people to collaborate with us, if we don't give them an opportunity to share their skills, their time, their, financial abundance, we've done a disservice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Now, in listening to all that you do and everyone that you're working with and the many hats that you wear, a lot of times when we give, that's exciting, but it can also be tiresome, right? Because there's so much that weighs on our heart. What is something that you do to refill your tank, to keep you going, a moment of self-care that you give yourself unapologetically so that you're able to keep moving and grooving and doing all the great things that you are doing?
Gosh, that's a great question. So one of my sustaining moments every day is I have probably about a half hour of time where I start my morning with an inspirational piece out of a book. I have, a couple books that I can just open at random and guaranteed there's going to be something uplifting on that page. And so if I spend, 5 minutes taking a quiet moment for myself, and having that uplifting start to my day, it's a really important way for me to start that. Aside from that, there's lots of, I am surrounded by uplifting women in my life, and that is amazing. And well, I'll say just uplifting people. I belong to a women's giving network that is constantly, I constantly get uplifted by them, my time at home with my husband, Matt, and my dog. So like they make me smile and laugh every day. So those are the things that fill my cup also. But it's really, I think, just finding those positive, peaceful moments, within all of the busyness and in all of the challenges that go on in a day.
And you know that brings me back to what you were saying about Velo Youth and the link between the work that you do with that program and the bicycles, where you put your eyes to, and in this case, where you're putting your mind to, is the direction in which you're going. So by starting out your day with, a hopeful note that you're reading to yourself, an uplifting note, surrounding yourself with uplifting people, that's the direction that you're bringing your eyes to and your mind to. So by doing that, you're able to uplift others. And what a beautiful, beautiful thing that is. Well, remarkable, Tanya. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to all for listening.
Thank you, Danielle. It was great to be here.